Hi guys, welcome to another episode. Today we're going to talk about speed. Speed is a very important concept, and most of the times many drummers try to work on speed without really thinking about what speed actually is on drums. Theoretically speed for what we have to do is playing more beats per a fraction of time, per minute or per second or whatever it is. But how do we actually reach that? Like, what's the secret sauce about being faster, playing faster? Of course, the first thing that pops up to my mind is body motions, having fast body motions. But that doesn't mean that we have to relate everything on our muscles, because there are external forces that we can take advantage of. And so if we know how to, of course, speed our body up, and take advantage of these external forces that will allow us to make less fatigue, we will be able to reach very fast speed without really having to work too much, without having to do too much physical effort. So let's break this down a little bit and understand exactly what speed is and how can we improve and develop our speed on drums. Starting from our body, the first thing that we have to do is making sure that we can improve the speed of every part of the body that we will use to play drums. So on our upper part of the body is going to be fingers, wrists, and arm. Even though we know that the muscles, the bigger they are, the slower they are. It's a physical law, the fact that an elephant, which is big and has a lot of mass to carry, it's way slower than a cat, which is way lighter, has smaller muscles, and it's designed to be faster. Okay, it doesn't have all that mass to carry. So same concept applied on our body. Bigger muscles will get to one point, for example, arm motion or leg motion. So big muscles of the arm and the legs will allow us to go until a certain speed. It's easier for our brain to control what we do with bigger muscles, so that's why it's more spontaneous to use bigger muscles. But then again, bigger muscles get only to a certain speed. Then they will start to create tension, and we have to shift to smaller muscles. The smaller the muscles we use are, the faster we can go, for the physical law that I just explained. So when we reach the maximum speed of our arm, we can shift to the wrist, which has smaller muscles because it's an articulation. And so the wrist can allow us to go a little bit faster, and then when we get to the limit of the wrist motion, we can switch to fingers on the upper part of our body. Okay, so we have three shifts: arm motion, wrist motion, and finger motion. Instead, on the lower part of our body, we have the leg motion, ankle motion, and then we can shift to certain techniques that can help us. So first of all, we can start training our body to be faster on the motions. So what I would do, I never try to speed up the big muscles speed, because it's very limited, and unless I don't need to, it's not something that I'll ever gonna use. It's gonna be a lot of work that I will never apply, so it's a waste of time in my opinion. I'd rather learn to control and to shift directly to the wrist. So first workout that I would do, it's literally without anything, just to train my body, so without stakes, without pedals or anything like that. I just simulate the grip, the fact that I will hold my stick and try to start working on the wrist motion as much as possible. Either this or tapping on my leg or on a surface just with the wrist motion, both with my right and left hand. I don't do this because this limits. Okay, this motion goes from plus 30, let's say, to 0. Instead, this goes from plus 30 to minus 30. So it's a wider angle, and that's better for my training. I'm training a wider motion, so that's just benefits in the long run my emotions and my speed and my control and everything. So I do a little bit like a wider motion, a little bit more than 30 degrees, so that it's not limited. And then I do the same thing with my fingers. Okay, I train the French grip, which will require these 4 fingers to actually being in action. So I train like this. Instead, on the lower part of my body, I do exactly the same thing, just for my ankle, and exactly for my wrist. I just try to go as fast as possible, and always not heel down but heel up, so that I train more than just the one part, the up motion, but also the down motion of the heel up. Okay, so this is the physical part of the workout. Okay, so I train my body to be as fast as possible, but then we will have to deal with having to play with sticks and pedals. It's not that we play congas or anything like that, so the speed just depends on our body. It also depends on what we have to deal with. Drumsticks and pedals are gonna be something that's part of my body, fundamentally. So I have to really be synchronized and united with them, so that when I play, I don't feel, I'm not separated to them, and I don't feel their weight. I don't feel like it's an extra thing that I have to lift or anything like that. But how do we do that? Like, what's the way, what's the correct way of dealing with these external things? So let's start from our sticks. Basically, it's an extra weight. It doesn't matter how heavy your sticks are, it's still, even the lighter stick, it's an extra weight for our body. So the less we feel the weight, the better it is for endurance, for speed, for power, and so on, right? So in the first part of the motion, we will have to push the stick down. So we will have to put this object from here to the surface that we're playing on. And we know that the force of the gravity, it's in our favor in this part, because if we let the stick fall, it will fall automatically. We don't have to do any effort to push the stick down, okay? Once the stick hits the surface, the stick wants to immediately come back, okay? If you let a ball bounce on the floor, as the ball hits the floor, bounces back. It doesn't stay there, okay? Of course, there are many different situations where the surface that you're playing on doesn't have a rebound at all, or like the ball can be flat and doesn't bounce at all. But in this case, we're working with a piece of wood against a tight drum head, and even a floor tom, even the surface that it's least tight, the least, so that has the least rebound, it still has a little bit of rebound, and so we can take advantage also of that very small rebound that the surface is giving us. So in this case, it's going to be a stick on a rubber pad, so there's a lot of rebound going on, and it's great to have this example. So what happens here, it's actually that the stick, it's a surface and wants to immediately come back. So if I stop the rebound and I lift the stick, I will lift the stick, so I will feel the weight of the stick, right? Because it's an extra weight, and I will feel it. When we apply this to micro muscles of our fingers, for example, it's gonna cause some extra physical work, and we want to avoid that. If we take advantage of the rebound and we follow the stick back up, we won't feel the weight of the stick ever. Okay, if I follow the stick back up, as I'm doing here, where my hand is completely open until I don't follow the stick and grab it back, it means that I'm literally following the stick. Okay, so in this way, I don't feel the weight of the stick. I never feel the weight of the stick. So the rebound is actually helping me to take advantage of this. And at this point, I understand what speed is. And where should I put my concentration when I have to speed up? If I work on reaction, so the reaction of my body to when every time the stick hits the surface, come back as fast as possible. That's where I'll be ready for the next stroke. And that's where I can play more strokes in a certain amount of time, because I'm ready already to play another stroke, so I will be way faster. So speed in drums, it's based on reaction. Okay, it's based on up motions, not down motions. Okay, our concentration instinctively, what we think unconsciously is that this stick has to go down. And so that's where our concentration and most of our motion focuses on, in this. Instead, if we want to play faster and we focus on the opposite, so we focus on coming back up, that's where we'll train speed. Okay, so speed is the reaction of our body once the stick or the pedal we're playing on the surface we're playing on bounces. So the faster we come back, the faster we'll play. Okay, so we can put our concentration towards one motion, one part of the motion only, and that will also allow us to having to think about less things. And the more we speed up, the harder it will be for our brain to understand and concentrate on every part of the motion. If I think down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, and I speed this up, it's going to be down, up, down, up. It's going to be a lot of thinking. Instead, if I only think of the up motion, I have to think about up, 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 up. I will get to a point where I lose control anyway, but I have to think about 50% of what I'm doing. And that's a lot less thinking that I have to do. Same thing happens in the lower part of our body. So once the pedal hits the surface, the spring will want the pedal to come back as fast as possible. So if we play, if we work on the reaction that we have, so we can say that the spring has the same function of the rebound for the stick. If we think of the up motion our foot, that's when we will gain speed. That's where we will improve our speed. Okay, instead, if we think of pressing down, it's going to be the same thing. There's going to be that extra like microsecond that we'll focus on pushing down, that will slow everything down. It will make it more difficult, then it will make it more physical, and so we'll do a lot of effort, we'll get tired sooner, no power because we don't leave enough space to bounce. Instead, thinking of coming back up and reacting, it will help us. It'll help every part of our body, our hands and the ankle to be way faster. So speed on drums, it's the reaction of our body. The faster we react, the faster we'll play.